just use the side aisle. Families up in the first row. Thank you. You just use the side aisle. Families in the first row. Okay. That's why I sick them on you. They were right here without cutting place. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
But anyway, just leave it.
Never. Just find a sequence. Thank you. You just find a seat, please. Thank you. No. Yes, it is. No problem.
Following the stop is Showtime, a American talk show voiced which premiered in 1938. The voiced material based on the Shakespeare play, the first music-based TV show in the play.
If you want to ask, just find a seat.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services today, we ask that you kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices or place them on silent. Thank you. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your protection. A guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm and guard your life. Adonai guards your going and your coming, now and forever. Master of the universe, creator of heaven and earth, man and woman, be gracious to your children who mourn. May the light of your presence dispel the gloom of absence so keenly felt on this sad day. Bless them with your compassion. Empower them with your love. Touch them with the fullness of your heart that they may be granted inner peace. Was it not you who said, "Do not be dismayed, for I am your Lord. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will sustain you with my power." As we remember the blessings in Lois Sheila Cohen's life, we ask you, Eternal One, to remember your promise to us, and let us say, Amen. Amen. Ashish Chayal miyimsa, v'rachok mipnimim midbra, petach ba'alei ba'ala v'shalal lo yachasar, gemal huto v'lo ra, kol yemei chayecha. What a precious find is an Ashish Chayal, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him. Never bad, all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household and never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her and says, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceitful and beauty vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Whenever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Aisha Childs, a reading from Proverbs. It is understood to be the tribute to a woman who is truly a woman of strength and goodness in the world. It is with these words, this is a frame for understanding Lois's life and how we come together to remember a woman who was truly good and truly kind, compassionate, and extraordinarily resilient and strong. It is my honor to be here today, to be here for the family and all those who loved her and whom she loved. For those relationships are what gave her life meaning and were a foundation to her identity and who she was in the world. I'd like to invite Rabbi Gil Steinlauf up to share Psalm 23, a psalm for comfort as we all move through this difficult loss together.
Adonai roi lo echsar, binot sheyar bitzeni, al mei menuchot inaleni. Nafshi shovev, Yancheni b'madlei tzedek, Yancheni b'madlei tzedek, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צמוות, לא אירא רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי. תשענת השמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. הכתוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. Give me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. Guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. I'd like to welcome up Alan Malatsky and AJ Shalom Cohen to share some words of their remembrance of Lois.
I wanted to welcome everybody for being here today. I am Lois's brother, only 3 years younger, who I am the person who has the longest memory of Lois. But I'm going to be brief, and I know that Shalom AJ will have a patient who waits for me. He will be much more inclusive than me, but I wanted to bring a different perspective of the 74 years that I've known my sister. And as being 3 years younger than her, I knew Lois as a very patient person. I have this memory when I was 3 years old, and somehow I managed to push her down the stairs. And yet, even after all that, she still was very, or as I remember it, she was still very patient and calm. And years later, when I went to kindergarten, she was the one who took me. She walked me to the kindergarten class, to Miss Hunter, who was terrified of the teacher, terrified of the classroom, and my sister calmed me down. So she was into this. She was very nurturing and very strong, even back when she would have been sick at 9 years old. In high school and college, her life was filled with music and musical theater, whether she was performing or listening. She often talked to me about how, in her first performance at Glassboro, she performed with Patti Smith, and those of us who are of a certain age will remember Patti Smith in the front pages of the newspapers for the last 30 years, I suppose. And then, wouldn't you know it, in the last several years, Patti Smith came to Philadelphia to talk about one of her books and to sing a performance, and my daughter Chloe took her to see Patti Smith, and Lois was handicapped. They ended up getting a front row seat because of the handicap, and everybody was both Chloe and Lois were very excited. Lois got to go backstage, hug Patti Smith, and of course Patti claimed that she remembered Lois very well. But Lois talked about Patti for years and years. She never finished the 2 books that she owned by Patti, but she still talked about it all the time. When my parents aged, we were starting to get older in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. Our paths certainly crossed, both of us taking care of our aging parents. But Lois always had the main role in caring for them and caring for her very sick husband and taking care of 2 children and working a very busy job. And I think about it now and I wonder how she ever had time to do everything how she managed. And I know I couldn't have managed. Over the years, our families celebrated many holidays together. Lois was always the perfect host for Passover Seder, where the Passover Seder would go on for hours. But we all managed. She would often come to our house, and she always loved that extra glass of wine or sharing a meal with us. And she always loved my wife Sandy's chocolate dessert, just very much. I always loved her cakes. In the last several years, as Lois got struck by all these horrible illnesses, it became my turn to help take care of Lois. Our roles reversed as she needed more help with the activities of daily living. But she still had moments of happiness, and she attended the weddings of all 3 of my children. She had a grand time. She actually came to Italy for one of those weddings and took Reuben with her, and you may see some pictures there, but she was thrilled to be there. It seemed like the best time of her life. Her joy was palpable, as you can see from these pictures. throughout her life, Judaism played such a role with her and really continued until very recently. I was able to secure a link for the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services last month. And the aide, and I think Ruben helped her get onto her computer, and she actually watched the services and she sang on Yom Kippur Eve and Kol Nidra, and even Rosh Hashanah, there she was. She appreciated the services so much. It meant so much to her. It was very awe-inspiring to me to see the pictures, and brought tears to my eyes. But you know what? She also remained surprisingly interested in politics of all things. She wanted to do the vote by mail for the local school board election, right? The local school board election, how much money should the bonds go up to? She voted and she said, oh yes, yes. Everything for public education. She so much wanted to, she wanted to vote for in the general election in November, and unfortunately that never got done. Finally, as Lois grew weaker and she entered long-term care, the people around her two kind, wonderful caregivers, Carla and Simona, they took such good care of her. I personally cannot thank them enough for all that they did for Lois. But I also want to recognize David Cohen, who is here, and how much time he spent with Lois. He visited, he was there almost as much as Carla and Simone. They would testify, oh yes, there was David again. He was always there. He sort of showed up, right? And it was brought such joy to her. So we will all miss you, Lois. We will all miss you and miss your voice, and thank you very much for your attention.
I can't say much more than Alan's already said there. And he thanked pretty much everybody that I would thank myself. And he's absolutely right. But one of the things that I need to read here is something my mother wrote, who, well, if you know my mother, she can also be pretty darn stubborn. And she insisted over and over and over again that she wrote this and she wanted it read at her funeral. So I'm pretty much going to read this verbatim, because that's what she wanted. Lois Sheila Malatsky Cohen was born on April 4th, 1945. Lois was the wife of Barton Cohen. She had two sons, Shalom A.J. and Reuben, and was her only granddaughter who gave Lois two great-grandchildren, David and Luna. Lois enjoyed music all of her life. Her favorite song as a child was I Believe, a song her mother sang in a synagogue choir. At 10 years old, her parents purchased a piano and Lois took lessons. Her favorite songs from that time were Oh My Papa and Whatever Will Be, Will Be. And boy, she would sing that one out loud a lot. Lois and Alan were left alone while their father bowled and her mother sang in the choir. Sometimes her Bubby would babysit and Bubby would try to teach Lois how to read Yiddish. Lois never learned how to read Yiddish. However, she could understand Yiddish. In 1958, Lois had her bar mitzvah at Beth Israel Synagogue on a Friday night. Lois's parents and Lois herself wanted her to sing the Kiddush. However, Rabbi Wein said that hers, I have no idea what that is, was having his bar mitzvah the following day, and he would be the one singing. When Lois was about 12, she met Barbara Schwartz, became her best friend. Barbara had taken a bus from Margate to get Lois's 16th birthday party. As a matter of fact, Lois and Bart had gotten married the same day as Barbara and Bob. And just think of all the anniversaries that they had spent together. Of course, Barbara then met Jane in the laundry room at Cooper River Apartments. The three of them then became good friends for many, many years. Lois started teaching at Wiggins Elementary School in Camden until Bart, my father, had decided he didn't want Lois to teach in Camden. And then Lois taught school for nearly 30 years after that. She spent 23 years in Gloucester Township teaching reading and language and retired in 2007. Lois had always loved music. She had had some great experiences. For example, she sang with the Mary Green Singers at Longwood Gardens for many summers. She traveled to Europe with them for several years. She also sang in the chorus at Glassboro State College in operas where the leads were actually professionals. She even learned to sing in French and Russian for the operas. She also sang in synagogue choirs. For 3 years, Lois performed at retirement communities and nursing homes. Lois was a sweet, loving woman who helped others, and she would be missed by her family and friends. And that's what she insisted that I make sure that I sit there and write, or read. And like I said, when I say, I mean, it was every 2 weeks. Even when she was perfectly fine, every 2 weeks. I would hear, it's on the computer. You're going to read it. Alan has already pretty much thanked everybody who needed to be thanked, and I will add huge praises for the same people on top of that. I'm not even going to add much to that. There's only one thing I want to say. The big thing that's going to hit a lot of us, especially the grandchildren, the nieces and nephews, and anybody she did it for, is that every year on your birthday, she would call and sing you happy birthday. Thing is, it wasn't actually your birthday until she did it. You kind of just waited for it. And every single time, no matter how sick she was, anything else, she would call and sing you happy birthday. Like I said, I'm not going to add to all that because I'll sit up here and keep rambling on for a while. But I just want to thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you all for being here. This is the festival of Sukkot. Sukkot is also known as the time of our joy. The depth of this message is in the tension between our understanding that this time, this festival, we are commanded to be joyful, but we are commanded to sit outside in a structure that's designed to fall down. We bring the best of our household, we bring our family, we bring our friends, we all come together in a sukkah, this little booth that is really made to fall down. If it can't fall down, it's like not really a sukkah. Right? The thing that defines it is the covering, which is meant to blow away. If you can't cover it with living plants. You must cover it with plants that are cut from the ground. So you watch them fall, the leaves fall. You watch them go from a lush covering to dry, leaving us more and more of seeing the sky through the covering. It is the festival when we remember that life passes. Life is short. All things that we value and cherish are impermanent, and they will end. But it is in that understanding, that perspective on the world, where we must find joy with our families, with those we love, with an appreciation for all of the many gifts that we do have, because that is where we find that joy. We read the book of Kohelet that teaches The only worthwhile thing there is for them to enjoy life themselves and do what is good in their lifetime. Lois truly did what was good and worthwhile in her lifetime, and she found joy with her family and her friends. She adored their accomplishments. She was so proud of everyone she knew, and all the joy in their lives became joy in her own lives. And even when things were hard, and things were often hard, she truly lived in a world where the world was a challenging place. She watched those she loved wither and become infirm. And she remained strong and resilient and did what was good and worthwhile as she cared for others. Who she was, her great loves and passions were deeply intertwined in terms of structuring something to say about her. How do I understand? She loved Judaism. She loved music. She loved teaching. She loved reading. She loved sharing those things with others. Those were all deep joys for her. And I'm trying to understand how do I talk about this, because everything is about everything. Because that's who she was. She brought all of who she was to her life. And you see it in every story that's already been shared. Right? But foundationally was her love of her friends and her family that rested at the heart of everything. A.J. Shalom shared stories of her friends and how she met them and how they lived their lives together and became close and stayed close until the end. I heard about her friends all the time. They mattered so much to her. She cherished those friendships. Her Judaism is everywhere, and her commitment to Judaism and sharing her love of Judaism with everyone. Alan shared the stories of the family seders where everyone would gather together and share that opportunity to really touch the Jewish tradition as a family. I understand AJ used to cook and would organize the kitchen and bring people together, and David was able to come to her home and share those experiences. And it is truly her opportunity to be good to those she loved, to be good to those who care about, share a meal, share a joyous occasion, share a love of the Jewish tradition, and to be together as a family. She loved her shul and her synagogue. She loved singing in the choir of her synagogue. When she went, as she became older and she retired and she had time, she went to visit Jewish nursing homes so she could sing and share her song and her love of music with the residents in those nursing homes. Right? Every one of these opportunities brought together all of who she was. They brought together her love of Judaism, her commitment to others, her love of music. Those strands of her identity and who she was appear in every action. She loved teaching reading. She loved her students. She loved that she was able to give this gift of reading that she loved to others. She would literally give books that she loved, stories that were meaningful to her or to my children, to share that love of reading with them because it mattered. Lois Cohen had her master's degree in education as a reading specialist. As much as she was absolutely this sweet and lovely, caring person that was meaningful for her to remember, she was also amazing. Right? This is a woman. She was an accomplished professional. I don't know if it was a sense of humility or a sense that of where she comes from in that area, but I never felt she quite gave herself credit for the power that she was. She worked hard. She was, again, an accomplished professional who brought skills and meaning and life-changing knowledge to her students. It's hard to talk about Lois without talking about music. You just can't. We were privileged to hear her singing as we came in. We heard, but it was everywhere, in anything and in everything. She and my brother Barton shared music. And if you know Barton, you know how surprising that would be. They shared a love of opera, and they listened to opera at home, and they went to operas. I understand he taught her to cook, which I think is also funny. She used to sing with the Mary Green Singers at Longwood Gardens in the summer. She loved travel and new experience and seeing new things, and through her work with choirs, she went to Europe. She traveled, she saw the world, as AJ mentioned. She learned to sing in French and Russian, to sing in operas. She sang with synagogues, bringing music to her love of Judaism. In retirement homes, bringing her love of music to make other people's lives more enriched. She shared a quote, right? The very first place she performed, a man raised his hand and said, "My mother sang that lullaby for me." She was able to bring joy and happy memories and music to people. She brought connection. She brought history. She brought all of that to people through her music. She took her nieces and nephews to concerts and to song. When she went and saw Patti Smith, she went with Chloe, right? Because not only was the music that mattered, but sharing the music with everyone she loved. Right? Going to a choir rehearsal, it was so much for her. Right? That is where she was able to bring herself to be with others. But I think we all understand that family was central in her life. Right? As Barton became ill, she was there with him. I still remember. You won't be shocked if I cry, I'm sure. I remember seeing her with Barton in the nursing home. He was in a wheelchair. He could barely speak. And to watch her put her hand on the back of his neck to be with him and be close to him was the most tender thing I have ever seen. Throughout all the challenges, she never lost the tenderness, she never lost the compassion, and she never let go of her commitment to being happy. Later in life, she married Len Wexler, and he made her life more full and rich. She wasn't ready to just leave that part of her life behind. Loss is part of life, and she remained resilient and went on living. Nothing brought more joy to her than her sons. They were a blessing and a gift in her life, and they were how she you both mattered so much. Know that she loved you with all her heart, and you were always a gift for her. All of her family members were a gift to her. in my family, she was part of my family. I knew Lois almost 25 years longer than I knew Barton. She was deeply dear to me. David was so meaningful to her, and his visits were part of her life whenever she faced times when she needed to be in the hospital and times when she needed support and care. When my mother was in a nursing home, I knew that she wasn't alone, because in addition to our own family members, Lois was there for her, because Lois was committed to being the best person she could possibly be. Compassion and care were central to who she was. They were part of her identity, and we could always count on her in every way. She loved her brother's family. She loved Alan, Sandy, David's wife Elizabeth, their children, Becky, her fiance, Javier. She talked about you all the time. And she was always so excited when your kids reached a milestone or a success or an achievement, or they were just happy. It was meaningful to that. Their happiness was meaningful to her, and it was meaningful to her to share their happiness. Anna, you and your children were a light in her life. To have a grandchild and great-grandchildren whom she loved and adored, that was so important for who she was. It truly lit up a room when she talked about you. I feel very blessed that Lois was part of my life and part of my family, and that her family was part of my family. And at this time when we remember that there is joy in the world, even though all things must pass away, this is when we can remember Lois and all the good she brought and did in this world, even though we have to say goodbye. In the book of Kohelet, we are reminded the life breath returns to God. Lois and her spirit are not alone, and her memory is with us always to cherish forever. I want to share some words from her Rabbi Nathan Warner, who wasn't able to be here today. I send sincere condolences to the friends and family of Lois Cohen. I regret that I cannot be with you in person. I consider myself very lucky to have gotten to know Lois. I experienced her passion for Judaism, Jewish learning, and Jewish community. Her presence will be missed in our community, and it was forever touched by having her as a part of it. Sending all whose lives she touched strength as you navigate this immense loss. Zichrona livracha. May her memory be an eternal blessing. Rabbi Nathan Warner. Eloha slichot, chanun v'rachum, erech apayim v'rav chesed, hamsei kaparat pesha v'hakravat yesha, umnucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, v'malot kedoshim ut harim, k'zohar hakarit rakia kirtono, et nishmat Leah bat Aaron ve'Esther, shel halcha la'olama, Ana ba'al harachamim, zochra la l'tovar kol zichrioteha v'tzidkoteha, v'artzot ha'chaim v'patach la sha'arei tzedek v'ora, שערי חמלה וחנינה. בסתר כנפיך תסתירה לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר, Amen. God of forgiveness, you are gracious and compassionate, patient and abundantly kind. Grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence amongst the holy and pure to the soul of Lois Sheila Malatsky Cohen, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask of you that you remember all the worthy and righteous deeds she performed. May our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Can you please have the pallbearers to the center aisle? If I can ask everyone to rise, please.
נכתב בדוד, שומרני אל חסיתי בך, אמרת לאדוני, אדוני אתה טובתי בא עליך, קדושים אשר בארץ המה, ואדירי כל הצפי בם, ירבו עצותם אחר מהרו בל אסיך מזכהם מדם. וכל אשא את שמותם על שפתי, אדוני מנת חלקי ונפלוסי. אתה תומך גורלי, חבלים נפלו לי בנעימים, אף נחלת שופרת עלי. אברך את אדוני אשר יעצתי. אף לילות יפלו.
I would ask you to kindly please be seated and remain seated for one moment. Thank you.